Hi, welcome back to my channel, Class in Session. Anyways, skip that. Hi, so I wanted to come on and talk about my next topic. I think I should start having some guests when I really start taking this seriously, but for now it's just like me venting and ranting, and those are my favorite kind of videos to watch. So today I wanted to talk about the topic of romantic relationships. And I try not to laugh at that today because I shouldn't. It's such a complex thing. Like, feelings are so sacred, and people's goals and values are so what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. Valid. There we go. Valid. Sorry. I need to get my thoughts in order. I have my notepad, and today's drink is Rain Natural Energy Drink. I believe. Yeah, it's the peach flavor. I'm really into it right now. It's so good. Anyways, okay, so I want to think of a way to start this without like being all over the place because I found my last video was like a little bit too chaotic, like a little too sporadic and all over the place. But I kind of just like have my thoughts come to me, not like come naturally, because I'm a writer. I'm somebody that loves to, express myself through like poetry and short stories and like things like that. But anyways, so I think like today, like I feel like there's certain like factors that really contribute to whether or not a relationship will last. And I've just seen like through other people, like friends and family, like how things have gone with them. And like I really think like the main thing, I'm listening for noise because there's so much noise outside. But anyways, I think the main issue today in society is social media, especially for like Gen Z and like Gen Alpha millennials. Like it affects my generation too, actually, because I am a millennial myself. But I feel like I grew up in such a different time than Gen Z, and I really feel like they are at a disadvantage, and it's really not their fault, but it is at the same time. So I just feel like when you get in a romantic relationship with someone, one thing I always tell people, and that's just based on my personal experience, when you start to know someone of the opposite sex, I think it's so important. And it's one thing I didn't see people do in high school, which is like I just saw people jump into relationships in high school because like they're like, oh, like your hormones are super high, right? Like, and then on top of that, like you're just in a peak time for like puberty, right? And you're discovering things about you and other people, and it's just getting in touch with your body and all that. If you took physical ed class, you learn all this stuff. But basically, I feel like I always tell people you should be friends first with someone before you take it to the next stage with them, like to that level of romantic. Oh my god, why is there so much noise outside? But anyways, I always feel like you should be friends with them first. And the reason why I say that is because I just noticed like so many people just get in relationships because they're bored, because they're lonely, because they're codependency, because, maybe they got matchmaked by someone. And that usually is a really good way to know if you're going to stay long with someone. And I just feel like when you're young, you're going through things and you're trying new things and you're experiencing life, you're experimenting, right, with your sexuality, whatever that may be. And in all respect, I just feel like when you jump into something with somebody, you're not really getting to know them with any substance, right? Like you just already are forcing the person to commit and compromise and reach your expectations and know your wants and needs and things like this, right? So it's all about like understanding where that person is too in their life, right? Because when you're 16, so when you're young in your adolescence and your youth, you're not ready for the gravity of those emotions. Like I really feel like it's really a dangerous game to allow for parents to allow their kids to date at such a young age because it's just they don't have the emotional intelligence yet. And sometimes it does work, right? And they can have a playful, puppy love situation. I never dated in high school, and that's just my personal, like, that's just my personality is like, I did not want to do that. In school, I was focused on school, and that's all I was focused on. I wasn't focusing, I tried to date somebody, I tried to go on dates, but it didn't work for me, and it was really embarrassing and humiliating because I feel like people watch you so much and they gossip a lot in school, and it's just like it's kind of hard to be intimate with someone alone, like one-on-one. So it's like it's just a really awkward time when you're young. So I feel like you shouldn't start dating, and I think parents, they could allow their kids to have phones, but just monitor it really closely and don't give them too much access to social media, and because it influences their brain really negatively. And on top of that, I just feel like if they're gonna date, you should not be dating till you're like 21. And I just feel like you could put that off even longer, because when you're young, you should just be focused on your schooling. And you should be focused on achieving your life goals, where you want to be, because once you introduce someone into your life and in your, personal space, and giving them your time and quality and all that, it becomes a lot. It's a big burden. And I don't want to say it's a burden. I'm trying not to use that word because it can come off negative, but it's just, it depends on how codependent the person is, because we have various attachment styles, and attachment styles are something that is very important to to like, you have to correspond with your person about what that is, what their style is, because are they a person who is clingy, are they a person who is more independent, are they a person who's in the middle, because some of us are like that. And I feel like I'm that type of person, but I feel like I would give my partner all their like, I would give them time to do, like, they need their own, solo dolo. That's what I feel like. I think it's 50-50 in a relationship, and you got to give them, a social life outside of, their friend group. Some people are friends with people at work, some people don't want to do that, they don't like to mix their groups. And some people, they are a small group of person, which I am, or they're a person who's a social butterfly and they have friends from all walks of life and different ages. But it just depends. Like, sometimes you have someone who's an antisocial person, and you have the person who is the person who's like the life of the party, right, that people just naturally gravitate towards. And I think it's good when you choose somebody who's, I think the most successful relationships are the person you choose who is most unlike you. Like, somebody who's very different, but sometimes they can be too different. But one thing you don't want to do is get with somebody who's the same sign as you, like zodiac compatibility wise. And I don't want to go too much into depth with that because people will think I'm crazy. But there is some signs, there is some proof that, based on if the person is an air, earth, or fire sign, right? Or a water sign, whether or not you will get along with them. And you start to notice those things pretty early on, quality wise, because either you pick someone who's like the same as you, but that could get boring very fast, right? You want somebody who's just exciting you and who's unpredictable, and that could be really cool. But you got to make sure, like, when you get older, like, you have emotional intelligence, because men really don't mature. In fact, adults, they've been proven, if you look up the studies, scientists have said that we don't really mature till we're 32, and that's currently my age. And even then, you might not have all your shit together, because, like, just looking at the financial, economic status of the world right now, how society is going, it's really, really chaos. It's really, like, it's really insane. Let's just say that, to have every, like, check every box in your life as being successful and you're doing it well. But I feel like, yeah, emotional intelligence is something that men don't really start to get till they're like in their 40s, and I think onwards. And you really can't blame them, because men are naturally in society, like, throughout history, they have been, men are just not monogamous. Let's just say that. There's a reason why most men are not, and it's because, I don't want to sound too insulting when I say this, but men who are alpha males are the ones who are wanting to dominate more women, multiple wives kind of situation, and they like to spread their seed, okay? And they've been like that throughout Neanderthals, Egyptian times. Men, it was okay. It's already still considered socially norm for a man to have multiple partners, females. And it's just because that's how the courtships work, right? Like, they in society, it's all about the law of attraction, right? So, like, a man and a woman, they will know based on their pheromones, and based, if you don't know what that word is, but look it up. You should, if you, when you read, you get to, get your vocabulary starts to get a little bit more intelligent. But anyways, they have the pheromones when it comes to animals, and how, like, in nature, how they attract somebody, of the opposite sex, like how a man is, like, is he a leader, is he a provider, is he responsible, is he financially smart, like, what kind of skills does he have. Women are all attracted to that because they want a man as a husband or a partner who is resourceful. Like, he can get things done, he's strong, he's capable, he's disciplined, all these things, he's motivated. All these things are just, they check off the box of what would make a good man. And the thing is, I really noticed that most men who are monogamous, they're a little bit more metrosexual. And if you do know what that means, it's just they're a little bit more soft. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there is, but it's really tough to find a guy, a male of that gender who is a perfect balance of both, like being masculine and he's a little bit more soft. Like he's an alpha and he's also, a little bit more submissive. So you can find guys like that, but you're never going to find the perfect person, right? And I think that's why social media is so detrimental, because it's kind of teaching people that with all this red pill and pick me girls and everybody's being boxed in a certain category, you just have it where like there's so many judgments and ideas and thoughts and opinions that are that keep like coming at you all the time on social media, and it really disillusions you and jades you into like thinking, okay, well, what I do, what now, I'm confused on what I want, right? Because for men, they have all these options of girls that flood their For You page, all these OF girls now, all these different types of models and influencers and Instagram this, and it's really a lot. It's overstimulating for them, and that's why I think during the pandemic I already watched a YouTube video on it, and why there's a gooner club now. Like there's men specifically who are dedicated to that kind of lifestyle. And if you don't know what it is, it's pretty interesting to look it up, and it really gives you like an introspective view of like why this happened. And I think it's because we spent so much alone time during COVID that people forgot to like call up their friends. Like they were just spending more time doing more superficial interactions. Like it wasn't communicating. Like I think it's weird today. Like I can't even talk to a Gen Z person without them being weird about it. Like it's strange for them to have a long conversation with me and look me in the eye and make eye contact and talk about different topics and pick at their brain on perspective of things, because they have a short attention span, right? So I really feel with people like, you know, there's just a lack of empathy and sympathy today. I think we got more cold as a generation, and overall in public, it's just people, they don't like it's hard to see people compliment you today. Like I just like to, like I mentioned in my last video, I think like people don't just do things like that anymore nice for you. Like people are a little bit put off if you start to talk to them at the cash register. Like they just want to quickly get through their job, and they don't really, not a lot of people are doing that personal touch anymore. Like their heart is not in it. They just want to make a buck and they want to move on and go home and maybe on to their next job because they're so exhausted, right? So sometimes you really can't put they're at fault for that. But I think also like there's just too much options that came with social media, and dating apps made it even worse because dating apps were just for profit, and they came out like Ashley Madison where men were cheating on it, and people were just, women are using it just to get free dates now, and it's just become so materialistic. So it's like dating apps were just like a quick thing, like where I've heard people just download it and then they quickly like you install it because they can't take it anymore. Like it's just too much at you all at once. And I think dating apps created a more like, it's just like a short-term thing that people use to get what they want out of it for their own advantage, and it's really not about connecting with someone on a deeper, more intimate level. Because I think it's just really for hookups, and that's what kind of stirred that whole culture. And I think like it's cool, like yeah, you could have a one night stand with somebody and never see them again, but for some people, if you're a demisexual, which is someone who basically by definition cannot have sexual relations with someone unless they have feelings for them, then you're not gonna fall into that category of somebody who can just have like meaningless intercourse, right? So, but the whole thing I think is that people are just really, I think the inflation has caused a lot of people to have financial stress, and the economic climate is really bad right now. It's hard to get promoted, it's hard to get a job, it's hard to keep a job, let alone you're stuck in a job maybe that you don't want to be in, so it puts you in a rut. And then there's just this endless bills that keep piling up for people, right? The older you get, adulthood is like hyped up for us when we were younger that it's going to be so good, you have so much freedom, you can do whatever you want, but it's impossible to get your own place today. More adults are living at home with their parents. um so that makes it really hard to bring anybody home. Like how are you going to do that? We don't really have privacy for that, and it's a safety concern. And it's just, it puts a lot of pressure on somebody to not only show up for themselves every day, but now you have to show up for somebody else. And I feel like that's just really, really, really tough. And it's like, I feel when things start to get like attraction wise, if somebody really hasn't had feelings for someone in a long time, they get, they might start to give the person a cold shoulder because they're not familiar, or they're not comfortable with what they're starting to like what they're going through internally, right? Like you start to overthink when you start to become interested in someone, right? And it just becomes like they might pull back if there's someone who's avoidant, or there's someone who is just pensive, and they might, even if you had like a good time with them, right? Like maybe you had a really good moment, you had a really good day together, you spent a few hours together, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from them ever again, or like you only the one chasing them and reaching out to them. Like that's really awkward, right? Because and it's just it makes you, and it just makes you really confused, because if people are not being honest about how they feel and they just blame things on their mood, or they like to use being tired as an excuse, right? Like it just becomes a really difficult thing when conflicts start to arise, and the longer you're with someone, you really do see them for who they are. And if someone is really if it's hard for them to be vulnerable, especially on how they're based on how they were raised, like their environment with their parents and their relationship with their family, that will really really show you what kind of character they are and how much work you have to put in to really give them the you have to give them grace, right? Because they might not have learned all those tools or read books on how to be somebody who contributes to a relationship in a more serious aspect. But I think there's just a lack of trust, and I really think because people just think they're gonna get cheated on all the time, or they're paranoid and about what their person is doing when they're not with them, like on their phone, like how many apps they have, like do they have two phones, right? Like that. But I think like some people just have a lust for toxic. Like I've heard people that I know who just say like that's something that they've been drawn to. And yeah, it's like it's a fair play that you're into toxic because it shows somebody how much they're willing to go for you. But eventually, as you get older and you become an adult, like you do have to grow into getting out of that childish like childish way of seeing things. Like you can you can't encourage and endure toxic behavior, because it's just gonna never get anywhere for you, and it's gonna make you, it's just a short dopamine hit if somebody is very aggressive. I think a safe love is the person who makes you feel calm and collected, not the person who raises your blood pressure and who gives you butterflies instantly when you see them, right? So, and you have to really wait for your prefrontal cortex, if you don't know what that means, but for that to develop, right? It takes a long time for it to develop, especially in men. And the whole thing is, I really think there's just an obsession with perfection thanks to social media again, because on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever you may have, like people want to show they're living their best life, right? They might tell you in person, "Well, I don't do that," but then when they post a picture, you see them doing exactly the opposite of what they told you they were gonna stop doing or whatever, right? Like maybe it's partying, maybe it's drinking matcha, maybe it's spending money on restaurants, right? Like who knows what it is, but people are always gonna want to uphold uh, the highest reputation of themselves, right? Because they want to make it seem like everything is good in their life, and you don't want to show the bad parts. Like why would you, right? Like I try to I try to post a mix of bad and good things that I go through, because I think it's just you have to be real and you have to be authentic and truthful with everybody, whether or not they're on your friends list or not. Um but yeah, so I just think also people, you know, we're in such a different world now versus back then to today. And I do think that people sometimes rush into things without really considering all the parameters. And I also think that, intimacy should be delayed. I don't think that, like, there used to be a rule, and I still think it is today, where it's 60 to 90 days that girls are supposed to give it up to guys. And I don't think you should rush right away into having sex, because it's just you're giving up the goods too early. And if you're not building up the mystery with each other and going on dates and being exciting with each other, and really, just like really creating that temptation, right, with your partner, like you're not giving it all at once and all up front. Like you need to do a slow burn, and those are the best kind of relationships, because you really get to see, like, okay, what turns them on, what doesn't, right? So I just think that we're in such a different place right now, and you just can't expect automatic gratification for somebody, right? So like I just think that I actually just read this today on Instagram. It said 1970, 80% of men were already married and working, right, in their field. But now, it actually today, by 30, only 23% of men are actually married. That's astounding. Like, that's a really big number. And you have to wonder why. Is it because there's all these YouTubers that came out, with most of them not having any educational background, telling people what they should do with their life? Like, that is the most um unrealistic way to look at things. If you just put somebody on a pedestal telling you, oh, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, making podcasts, right, bashing the other sex. I really think that's what started the problem, is the popularity and the rise and the rate of all of these podcasts. And some of them are just really detrimental to a young person's brain, because they're still going through life on a very, you know either fast paced mode, or they're, experiencing life very slowly. And when you have all these voices coming at you, it's just really, really, it's too much. It's too much. That's all I have to say. But yeah, I just think like there's poor communication going on today. Like, people don't like to pick up the phone anymore. They're very uneasy when you do call them, or they ignore your call. There's people who just they put you at a distance when things get too serious. They only want to text, and then when they text you, they're only texting one word. Like, it's just not how things should be today. Like, I really think like there's a resentment that grows with a resentment that builds up with people when they don't meet where your anticipations. That's what I was gonna say, but it really depends on, like, I think you have to make sure you sit down with somebody, talk about their life goals as you get more serious with them over like weeks, months, or years with them, and really, you know, both people have to be putting in enough effort, and they have to not be complacent, because once you get complacent, that's where you really start to see things deteriorate, and the whole like relationship will erode, like, because like erosion, I mean, basically, like, it will die, because people just get, like, after they get someone, I feel like after a guy secures a girl, or a girl secures a guy, like, they're like, okay, I don't have to put in the work anymore, like, I got the person of my dreams, right? But you can't look at things like that. You have to constantly still go on dates. You have to impress the person. You have to, really make sure that you're there for them. Like, are you making sure that you buy them thoughtful gifts every now and then? Like, what's their love language? Like, a love language is a really good way of showing somebody your affection and your admiration and your appreciation for them. So that's something that should be really put at the top of the list, basically. And basically, it's been proven that 14 to 18 months is usually how long people get engaged for, and they stay engaged. And usually people date for 2 to 5 years on average, but it could be anywhere from 8 months to several for men to propose, apparently. I do think that if you're dating someone for 6 months to a year, things are really getting to that level of, okay, is this person going to be your forever, right? Like, are they your soulmate, basically? If you believe in that, like, are they the one, like, right? So, but after a year, you should have a sit down conversation and like really get seriously deep about like, where do we stand, like, ask each other those questions, right? Because if not, like, you're just going to keep playing a role of being like a wifey or hubby for someone who's maybe not willing to take it all the way with you. Like, maybe they're just waiting till things get stale, right? Like, are they really invested? Are they really committed? Um are they really doing things just for their parents, like, right? Or are they living for themselves? Like, that's a big problem today, is like people just living based on cultural norms, right? Like, they just want to be subservient and please their elders, right? But they're not really living for themselves. And if you go through your life like that, you're going to be miserable. So it's like, you really have to come to terms with what are 5 things that really you should write down that really mean a lot to you and are sentimental. And basically, 2 to 3 years is the average dating now for relationships, but it could be anywhere from 3 weeks now for the talking stage, because talking stage is a big thing, which people are not even being able to get through that. Could be 3 months to 6 months, but yeah, I just think people have to realize that, like, this video is already so long. Sorry, I want to wrap this up, but I just think people have to realize that, like, you cannot force things. And really, at the end of the day, like, I think you should be dating someone for like 6 months to a year. After that, you have to do some internal like work of saying, okay, do I want to stay with this person? Because after I would say after like 4 years, if a man has not proposed to you, that's a big problem because you have to ask yourself, okay, are they just along for the ride? Like, are they just taking their sweet time? Like, because women should never be proposing to men. I don't care what anybody says. Like, that's a new thing now today, and I'm just not here for that. Sorry, I think by nature, the role is for the man to always propose. We cannot be having a feminist society that's going in that direction. But to each their own, like, I respect it. But I think after 4 years, you should know. If not, the person is wasting your time because, but maybe marriage is not for you guys, right? You have to ask yourself, is marriage for me or is it not? Because for some people, it's not. Like, we're in such a different, it's like we're in the twilight zone here, like we're in the matrix. Like people are just all over the place, that they sometimes don't know what their desires are truly about. And the thing is, like, after 4 years, if you're not married, like, okay, well, are you just common law then, right? Which is fine, and if that's what works for you, it's what works for some people, and you can judge their way of living. That's what they're entitled to. um but yeah, I do think we're past like long-term relationships that are going to span like 50-year marriages. I don't think that's going to be a thing anymore. In Asia, they've already said that Japan, like countries like that, they're having an issue with like low fertility rates and people who are just an older generation that's more popular now, like, and young people are just not meeting the standards of where their parents were at their time. And again, there's multiple factors that cater to that, but I think people have to really focus on, if it takes them longer to get where they have to get in life because of the world now and where it's at, it's going to make it worse for people to have children and procreate, right? And some people don't want to have kids. I'm one of those people. I don't personally, and that could put you at a disadvantage, right? But it just all depends. Like, you have to be optimistic and but also realistic about where things are today. Like, can you afford certain things, right? Like, when it comes to your wedding, are you going to do a big wedding? Are you going to do a small wedding? Are you going to do a bachelorette party or skip that? Are you going to do a destination wedding, or is it going to be in your location where you are? Are you going to do a honeymoon, right? Or are you going to spend big money for that instead, right? Like, and then you have to save up for all these things, right? And it's just like there's no savings today. Like, it's really hard to save money unless you do stock investing in the market, which I do. And if you do, good for you, because it's really important to have a nest, or like a Easter, like, what am I talking about? Anyways, I'm all over the place. But if you have a nest basically of money that's stashed away, right? For like a rainy day or for travel, right? But it's harder for people to meet where they have to, like, be where they have to be at a certain age. Like, that's just not, it's just not happening today. So I think just take a long time, like, be selfish with yourself and be alone for as long as you want. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But please don't let heartbreak and don't let bad things that happen to you, if you get rejected or ghosted, do not let that determine what's going to happen to you long term. You have to keep your heart open and really try, like, still try with people to get some of them, but take it slow. Like, there's no rush here, there's no timeline for you. You don't have to be where everybody else is at. Don't do that, because you're gonna make yourself crazy, and you're just gonna do so much damage to your mental health, right? So just try to take things with a grain of salt when you start getting to know somebody, and give it time. Like, give it at least 6 months to a year to like really date somebody and really have fun with them, and don't take it too, yeah, don't take it to they don't take too much to heart, right? So yeah, but I would just say find out what works for you, and don't pressure or force people to be everything you think they're gonna be. You know what I mean? Because it's just not real. But that's that. If you are in a relationship, I'm happy. If I hope it's healthy for you. I hope we're not gonna be in relations that are tearing us down, or somebody who is just taking us for granted or abusive. Make sure you are in a healthy relationship with somebody where they are hearing you, where they're seeing you, where they're praising you, and where they're there for you, whether it's long distance or not, right? And make sure people are not doing single behavior and having an attitude that they can be single while being in a relationship. That's not a thing. You can't have your cake and eat it too, like with ice cream. You gotta make sure like, am I actually really invested for a relationship, or is it something that maybe I need to take a pause from, right? And there's no shame in that. So yeah, just really get to know yourself and really take the time to get to know somebody else, because we can't just write people off so quickly anymore, and our phones are just letting us do that, and it's a shame, and it's we have to grieve a relationship and take the time to think about, to go through that when we break up with somebody, right? So we can't just fall back into our old patterns and get back in bed with somebody else, or thinking that, oh, the next person is just going to do it for me, right? Like, just really try to be patient. That's the word I'm looking for, patience, which is something I struggle with. But yeah, that's all for today. Do share your comments, please. Don't be shy. I really want to hear other people's view, and peace. I'll be back again with another topic. Thank you. I hope you like my statements. Bye.